folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what I see, at least, getting around the place, the increasing, and it's almost habitual, of HR departments that are stacked with diversity inclusion officers and snot-nosed, bitchy bimbos and that sort of thing, social justice fanatics. Nearly all the women there, if not all, and the gay guys, all that sort of stuff, they've all spent years being indoctrinated, and they've worked for NGOs as volunteers and this sort of thing. So they've had, from the time they entered the school system, up, right through into their mid-20s, they've had a never-ending avalanche of anti-male, anti-white, anti-Western propaganda. So it's hardly surprising that they're all walking around like zombies, filled with this, and just parroting all these silly slogans and talking points. And it's all globalist orchestrated and funded and scripted. So no one's stopping it, no one's opposing it. It seems at all layers of government, at all levels of government, regional, federal, local, it doesn't matter. All governments are fully on board with it, and so, of course, are the public service institutions. So it's hardly surprising that these people think that way and believe those things and gravitate disproportionately to jobs that don't have a criteria for measuring success or failure, or have you done your job or not. That's all very, very much committees and vague policies and vague KPIs or meaningless KPIs. So they're people who've never had to live in the real world. They've never had to produce a result and take responsibility for their decisions or their actions. Everything's done by committee. And so no one's ever to blame if something goes wrong, and then they blame the policy if it does, and that has to be redone, and so on. So anyway, so I end up rubbing shoulders, due to the sharing of business that I've got. I end up rubbing shoulders sometimes with these people, and I've been on some interview committees as like the outside person for hiring more senior people, sometimes junior, but mostly more senior people. But the one company, and I've heard this before, so it's not unique. One company, I was talking to the I suppose you'd call her the deputy vice president of HR or something like that, I guess would be the position she holds. So she's quite senior in the overall scheme of things, or in HR at least. And we're talking about their staff turnover is quite low, and they tout this as because it's such a great place to work. In fact, it's nothing of the sort. It's an unpleasant place to work, as far as I can tell. But because they've got 65% of the staff minorities, and they can't fire the minorities other than if they commit a crime and imprisoned through a court of law. A situation, by the way, that's not extended to straight white guys, but they can't be fired. So really, it's close to a job for life for minorities if you're there, and if the more boxes you tick, the more impossible it is to get fired. So the proverbial black lesbian, it'd be impossible to get rid of them. And these people know that, so they just don't do any work. Now, they waste their life sitting there, bored and resentful and bitter, and they sit there at a desk all day, with nothing to do other than try and make mischief and accuse someone of racism or sexism or something. And that seems to be all they do. And if you're in a room where there's a number of them in there, they act like little children, running back and forth to each other as they recount some evil thing a white guy did, and then they all say, "Oh, I find that offensive," and that's so they seem to be like 10 years old, if that. So, and it's just children playing house. It's not a viable business, where people doing work and taking responsibility, the opposite. But in spite of the last staff turnover, so I was talking about, or it came up about, do you fire anybody? And really, the only people they fire are straight white males. They're the only people that are accountable for their actions. And but interestingly, what came up, and this was again mentioned casually, was that the straight white males are fired for the crime of being confident. That's it. That's the crime. Straight white males are fired for being confident. Excuse me. How do you measure confidence? Is it the width of somebody's smile? Is it how white their teeth are? Is it how sharp their suit is, or something? Like, is there a defined criteria for what confidence is? And so, without asking it, the question, as if I was digging for information, someone that walks around really straight and chest puffed out, and da 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 da, and that's confidence. Someone who looks and sounds confident, who knows their subject, who knows what they're doing, and they know, and that sort of thing. So they're just too confident. They make other people feel bad. And so we've just got to get rid of them. So I tried to sort of follow the logic here. So, well, why are they confident? Is it somebody who's, say, conceited or proud based on false premise or something like that? Or are they simply good at their job? Maybe they're very experienced, very credentialed, and very qualified. Maybe they've done this job for years, whatever the job was, done the job for years and done it well, and been rewarded and commended and given medals or something. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe you're confusing self-assurance in their area of expertise for confidence, and that did cause a pause in her thinking. Well, I suppose it could have been that, but who cares? They're straight white males. They're expendable. They're the enemy. Why should we cut them any slack? Why should we consider their position? They're all Hitler. So we're allowed to get rid of them. Now, it sounds, from what I can gather, it sounds they've had a few of these white guys haven't just rolled over and taken that shitty treatment, and they've taken them out of the court. So they've had to make some payouts to these guys, which is deeply resented, by the way. So they're it was an interesting thing, but I'm coming across that more and more often. So if you're a straight white male that wants to keep your job, you have to learn to simper. And maybe, I don't know, get dirty knees or do a lot of crawling or something, or look like those manga cartoon characters, those wide eyes. And so I don't know, it must be, do you do that sort of thing? Is that what's necessary for straight white males? But the issue was, it's the most competent straight white males that are being targeted. So coming back to the sort of people that are being hired into all, whether it be the public service or the private sector now, there's either the business is destroying itself, the West is destroying itself, and with all these gender and race quotas and that sort of thing, very few qualified people and competent people are getting hired into jobs. And I'm meeting people who've, say, been in a job for 10 years, but because everything is done by committee and wishy-washy KPI, they've never had to make a decision, never had to learn anything, never had to improve themselves, never had to learn from their mistakes. And so someone today can be in a certain industry or a job for 10 or 20 years and know and have learned no more than at the end of 20 years than they knew at the beginning, other than slogans and buzz phrases, catchy one-liners and that sort of stuff, but they don't actually know what they're doing. And so I'm meeting CEOs who on paper you say, well, gee, they've been doing this for 25 years. They must be, must have achieved something. But when you actually sort of drill down a little bit, you find that they don't know anything. Like the CEO of a large financial institution, she was in the HR department for 10 years, and then suddenly was catapulted into the CEO's role. And I ended up sitting next to her at a dinner, and I just gave her the benefit of the doubt. And she must have just somehow be maybe of an outstanding intellect, or maybe capable of incredible hard work, or these sorts of things. But that wasn't the case. She was quite simple. She's like an auntie or something. She's quite simple. There was no above average intellect. She was quite sharp with the one-liners and the proverbs and the talking points and that sort of thing. But she had no idea what she was talking about. She's about as lost as Joe Biden when she came out with these things. So clearly she's been put for some sort of gender affirming political reasons. She's been put in the role. But because of these people are now in the majority in pretty much any business, and now, and this seems to be the case for a little while now, they're targeting the most capable straight white males. So it's like a breeding program, if you like, where, in fact, this is what it is. It's a breeding program where only the dumbest people are allowed to breed, and anyone that isn't dumb is a foreign object in the bloodstream and has to be cast out. And this is something. So say sitting at on an interview panel, the most capable people are not being hired, not because their credentials are being questioned necessarily, but the most capable people are always straight white males. And I don't think there's an exception to that I've come across. They're always straight white males, assuming they're even picked for interviews. And they're the ones, again, at the interview panel, they'll go, oh, no, I don't think, no, I didn't like Billy Bob. And then I might say, debate them a little bit, well, he's the best qualified. Yeah, but he's just, he's just too confident, and he'll upset the other staff. So no, we can't have him. It's better we have a moron coming on board, and then no one will get upset. And that's that's pretty much the attitude. Now, looking just at that breeding program that only the dumbest can be allowed to breed, and I'm talking about the corporate sense here, but in one of Australia's leading, in fact, if not the leading university of the nation, or one of the top three, I guess, they have jobs in the science department. I think there's 10 or 12 jobs or something like that, and only women are allowed to apply. Men are not allowed. No man, not even a black man. Only women are allowed to apply, and the preference is for non-white women. And again, they're looking for the trifecta: female, lesbian, and black. So the whole thing is a farce, an utter farce. But not one government official will stop it or speak out against it. In fact, in the media, there's some of the smaller channels, media channels have said that it's not a good idea, but all the majors are all on board with it and think it's wonderful. The diversity, the inclusion, and so we're seeing this across the board, up and down, left and right. This only the dumbest are allowed to breed, and you can imagine the cost to the Western business sector, to our profits, to our standard of living, to our future. It's all being squandered and frittered away by this absolute madness. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.